Welcome to Your Family's Health, the program that focuses on healthcare issues with unique and different modalities for taking charge of your health today. Experts talk weekly with our continuing roster of guests from around the country and right here in Nassau County to keep you up to date on the latest health issues and trends. Take care of your mind, body, and soul. Spend the next half hour with the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and get on the journey to better health.
Hello and welcome to Your Family's Health. My name is Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard from the nursing department here at Nassau Community College. And today we're talking about foods that will enhance your immune system, especially during certain times of the year like flu season. Our guest today is a returning guest, Stefani Sassos, a registered dietitian nutritionist for the Good Housekeeping Institute at Hearst in New York City. She previously worked as a Senior Clinical Oncology Dietitian at the Cancer Institute at St. Francis Hospital and also ran her own private practice on Long Island. Stefani, welcome back to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome. So it's been a while since you were here with us to talk to us. So we're hearing that you have a new position with Good Housekeeping Institute. Tell us about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very, very cool job. I'm really fortunate to be working in Good Housekeeping. The Institute is located in Hearst Tower in New York City in Columbus Circle. And basically, I am in charge of all nutrition content for the magazine, both digital and in print. And I also help evaluate products that earn the Good Housekeeping seal and the Good Housekeeping Nutritionist approved emblem. So a lot of my job is, really meeting with consumers and seeing, what healthy foods are you looking for to make your life easy and simple, and also working with brands to really find what's going to be on the cutting edge of these health trends and what's going to be the most valuable to our readers. So it is a really cool job, and this is a really cool place, and just feel very fortunate to be here.
Sounds like a really cool position. Very nice place to be. Let's just jump right in. Healthy eating. We know it's not the easiest thing to do. We know there are a lot of temptations out there. So how can an individual start to eat healthy?
I think, with everyone, you have to meet yourself where you are, and starting with small, practical little changes. So I think the first thing you can do, not only for being healthy, but also for enhancing your immunity, is hydration. That's a huge thing that so many of us are struggling with, is not drinking enough water and going through the day feeling super dehydrated. And I mean, the body is made up of 60% water. It's crazy. Every single cell in your body needs water. So that's probably the first thing that you can do. And I always find that, when I work with clients or talk to our readers, that if you start drinking more water, some of those other healthy habits start to come in line, right? So it kind of is that first thing that is that little ticket to sort of holistic wellness and holistic health.
How much fluid are we talking?
Everyone, it depends, right? So I usually say you want to take your body weight and take that in half. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. It's like a rough estimate. So let's say you weigh like 140 pounds, you need about 70 ounces of water. So, divide that by 8 for cups. So probably going to be around 8-ish or so cups a day. But really, I usually say for most people, if the number is going to be around 8 cups a day. And if you're working out, you need even more water than that, right? So it is important. But even if you're just starting with 1 extra cup of water a day, right? Like you can't go necessarily straight to 8 cups. That's better than what you were doing before, right? And slowly working your way up. That's the way to really make sustainable change when it comes to your health.
So when we talk about hydration, are we talking about water only, or can that include soft drinks, juices, all the things that we like to consume?
So any fluids do count towards your hydration for the day. Obviously, you want to be choosing, primarily water, right? And primarily things that don't have any added sugar. So, of course, like soda and things and juice, those are things I would sort of be more careful with, and maybe trying to choose more things like water, seltzers, naturally flavored club soda, iced tea. Of course, things that are unsweetened are always best. But those are really the ways that you're going to make those hydration needs come to life. And even just eating more fruits and vegetables, like not only do fruits and vegetables have so many different antioxidants, which we'll speak about, but they have primarily water in them. So you can even reach your hydration goals just by eating more fresh produce.
So when we talk about water, just to stay here for a couple of more seconds, how is water beneficial to the immune system?
In so many different ways. I mean, I think the first thing with water in the immune system, every single cell in your body needs water to function, right? So if you are clinically dehydrated, it can really just put all of your organs in such a critical state. So that's the first thing, just feeding your cells and also helping your body transport nutrients, absorb nutrients properly, and also making sure that you're flushing things out of your system, right? So like, what's the first thing that a doctor tells you when you have a cold? Like, drink lots of fluids, right? Drink lots of warm fluids. You need that fluid to sort of go through your system, flush out any sort of bacteria, any sort of toxins that are building up, and, give you a clean, fresh slate. So those are, I guess, some of the most important tips when it comes to hydration and immunity.
So we're thinking in terms of, for those coffee drinkers and caffeine drinkers that are out there, is that going to negatively impact my immune system?
Well, it's interesting you say that. There are certain benefits to caffeine, but most of us are drinking too much caffeine, right? So what happens when we drink too much caffeine is naturally dehydrating, even if you're having caffeinated coffee or caffeinated tea. So then you end up needing more water to reach your hydration needs. It's the same thing with alcohol. Alcohol is also dehydrating, and that bogs down the immune system. So not that you have to give up your coffee, not that you have to give up your wine, but definitely to have these things more so in moderation, I think is really key.
So let's move to foods. Some immune boosting foods that we can tend to take more of. What would you recommend?
So when it comes to immune boosting foods, there's a couple different vitamins that we want to look at, right? So vitamin A, that's really important for regulating the immune system. It helps protect your body against infection, and it just keeps your skin, all the tissues in your body, your intestines really healthy. Some examples of vitamin A foods, things like sweet potato has vitamin A, carrots have vitamin A, broccoli, spinach. A lot of fresh produce has quite a bit of vitamin A. So that's something that you always hear about vitamin C, but vitamin A is also quite important.
Yeah.
Of course, with vitamin C, that's what we all know, right? Everyone gets sick, they start taking vitamin C. Vitamin C is important. It really helps your body protect from infection, and it does stimulate antibody formation. So all that stuff can boost immunity. But we usually think of vitamin C foods as oranges and citrus, but there's a lot of other foods that have even more vitamin C than an orange, right? So my favorite vegetable is red bell peppers, and they are an excellent source of vitamin C. They have more vitamin C than an orange, which is really surprising. And you can chop that up and you can saute it. You can throw that on a salad. Even things like strawberries have a ton of vitamin C, papaya. So there's so many different vitamin C rich foods that can really help. And not just your standard citrus, although those citrus fruits are great as well. And two other important nutrients to note, vitamin E. Vitamin E is an antioxidant, and that can help improve immune function. It also neutralizes free radicals in the body as well. So vitamin E you're usually going to find in things like almonds or sunflower seeds or peanut butter, kind of those healthy fat foods have a ton of really beneficial vitamin E. And the last thing that's also important, you hear a lot about zinc when you're sick, right? People say to take zinc, and it does definitely have clout. Zinc helps boost the immune system. And it also, zinc is good if you have a wound, if you're sick and you have a wound. That's something that I remember from my hospital days. It does help wounds heal properly. And zinc is really in almost everything, but you can really find zinc in things like chicken or beans, seeds, and nuts. So, it's funny, the overarching recommendations for immunity, obviously there are certain foods, especially the produce foods, those fruits and vegetables that are really going to improve your immune system. But just eating a healthy diet overall, all of these foods are going to give you such important vitamins and minerals to help you feel good, and really keep your immune system a top notch.
So I'm hearing a lot of different fat soluble vitamins, and also I'm thinking in terms of your water solubles, I guess your Bs, your B complexes, and all those, which are also a wonderful source of boosting your immune system. What are your thoughts about taking vitamins versus take them in pill form versus take them in food form? And what do you think? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's the question I get asked all the time. And I always say food comes first, right? Like, for example, broccoli. Why is broccoli healthy? We can't just extract one thing from broccoli and put it into a pill. The reason why broccoli is healthy is the synergistic relationship and effect that's happening in the food, right? So it's all these vitamins together and the fiber and the antioxidants that make it so nutritious for us. And so when we eat food kind of like the way nature and God intended it, that's where we're going to get the maximum nutrition, the maximum health benefits. There definitely is a role for supplements. But you know what? I think when it's in food form, it's the most bioavailable, and it's just going to be the best way for your body to get the proper nourishment. But definitely when you're sick, if you think that you need like a little bit more vitamin C, you can definitely cycle some vitamin C supplements for like 2 weeks. You don't want to take vitamin C for too long, because what can happen with that is your immune system, your body can almost get adjusted to that level, and then it needs more vitamin C to reach that threshold. So really cycling it for like 2 weeks. And if you're having too much vitamin C anyway, your body's just going to pee it out. So it's not necessarily harmful, but the food forms are totally the thing to go for.
You're listening to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard from the nursing department here at Nassau Community College. And today we're talking about healthy foods that can improve our immune system with Stefani Sassos, a registered dietitian nutritionist for the Good Housekeeping Institute at Hearst in New York City, talking about these vitamin supplements and really eating well. What is your thought about eating raw vegetables as opposed to cooking our vegetables? Are we getting more nutrients from raw?
Great question. It's funny. Every single fruit and vegetable has different benefits cooked in raw. There are certain foods like tomatoes, when you do cook them, they express more lycopene. So certainly cooking can have that benefit, but the raw produce also has a ton of nutrition. So at the end of the day, as long as you're getting your produce in, you know what I mean? Like, that's the most important thing. Just getting those vegetables in, whatever way you prefer, raw or cooked. And it's funny, I do feel that all of our bodies are different and unique. And if you have a tendency or a preference for raw produce, maybe your body needs the nutrition from raw produce as opposed to someone who prefers cooked things, right? So being in tune with your body and just trying to get as much nutrition as possible from this produce is really important.
So what is I know a lot of people who go to supplement with vitamins. Is there a certain amount, or should we go to a registered dietitian to talk about what is the correct dosage or milligram dosage for a particular vitamin? How do we gauge that?
Great question. Definitely meeting with a registered dietitian can kind of help guide you, because supplementation is really personal and individualized. And if you go to some of these different supplement stores, you're not necessarily knowing what you're getting. Some of these supplement companies, all supplements actually, are not necessarily regulated by the FDA in terms of what it's composed of. So you can be buying vitamin C and you think you're getting, 500 milligrams, when in reality, the potency of it is much lower. So definitely meeting with a registered dietitian, trying to go get good quality supplements, and an RD can really advise you on where to go and what brands to look for. And looking for these brands that have like third-party testing, right, to verify, okay, this has what it says it has in this supplement. Because the supplement industry, honestly, today, it's really evolved, and there's so many things, and it can be really overwhelming. So meeting with a dietitian can certainly help you find your way with that track.
And a part of the dietitian visit, does that include the dietitian or the healthcare provider getting blood work so that we can sort of prescriptively say how much you may need in addition and above the next person? How can we individualize vitamin intake?
Definitely, when you meet with a registered dietitian, you're meeting with a very qualified professional. We're required to have our master's and have a clinical background, and we're required to be able to read lab work, right? So whether you're bringing lab work from your last physical to your dietitian to read, or sometimes I used to send people out to get lab work done at like a local lab, and especially if I felt that they maybe had a deficiency in certain vitamins. But bringing that, when you bring it to a registered dietitian, they can advise you on what levels you'll need, how much you'll need, right? Especially something like vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone, and it's so important for our immunity. And most of us are very, very low in vitamin D. I happened to be years ago extremely low in vitamin D, and my doctor couldn't really give me an idea of how much to take. So I ended up really doing research on my own and through schooling, figuring out this is how much I need in a day, and going back for testing again to see, okay, did my levels improve? And they did. And then going on a maintenance vitamin D, because most of us are not sitting outside in the sun, right? We're not getting that vitamin D every day, especially if you're living in New York and you're in an office all day. Most likely your vitamin D is low, and that is a huge, huge, huge component of immunity and healing and every single process in your body. So definitely meeting with a dietitian can advise you on that for sure. Because
more isn't always better. Especially with your fat-soluble vitamins. More is not always better.
Yes.
Sometimes it can have detrimental effects if you take large, huge quantities of particularly the fat-soluble vitamins. So tell me, just to debunk the mystery of what is the difference between prebiotics, probiotics, and all of the biotics, and do we need that?
Yeah.
How is it relevant to immunity?
Probiotics are basically that good type of bacteria. They're live microorganisms that are similar to the bacteria that's in your gastrointestinal tract, and they just keep your gut healthy. They keep your intestines healthy, and they really keep your digestive system balanced. And I always say your gut is the center of your health. If your gut health is off, a lot of different systems in your body are going to be off too, right? So how do you know if your gut health's off? You know, how are your bowel movements, right? I talk about poop all day long with people. It's really important. It tells a lot about your state of health and your nutrition. Do you have stomach aches? Do you have bloating? Do you get headaches? You know, all these things are based in the gut. So the probiotics are that good bacteria, right? So it's the opposite of antibiotics, right? Which is, you know, kills all the stuff, good and bad, right? So if you're someone that's been on antibiotics for a long time and you've kind of killed that good bacteria in your gut, you're going to want to replenish with probiotics, but you're going to want to replenish more so with probiotic-rich foods, right? And we could definitely talk more about that. But food form probiotics are always going to be a little bit more nutritious and more bioavailable than in a supplement form. And to answer your question about the prebiotics, those are basically like non-digestible carbohydrates that provide food and nourishment for the probiotics in your intestines. So the prebiotics feed the probiotics. And usually those are things that have a lot of dietary fiber. So certain foods that are high in prebiotics, those are things like garlic, onion, certain types of artichokes, asparagus, like a ton of foods. Even bananas actually contain prebiotics. And these things really are going to help to feed the probiotics to make them work properly. But at the end of the day, as long as you're eating a healthy diet, you're going to get those prebiotics in there. But the probiotic foods might be a little bit harder for you to get in. It's something you might have to think about incorporating more.
Give me an example of a probiotic food.
So I think most of us know yogurt, right? So yogurt has a ton of probiotics and something we all eat. The one thing I like to say with yogurt, though, is you really have to look at added sugar on yogurt because all the yogurts today, they are loaded with cane sugar and added sugar. So I like to look for 10 grams or less of added sugar on the label, okay? Even 10 grams is pretty high. If you can get something like 6 grams or less, or even just getting plain yogurt and putting some berries in there is probably your best bet. But definitely yogurt's a big one. Also kefir, that's one of my favorite probiotics foods. It's almost like a thin yogurt drink, and they have it everywhere now. Like now that I mentioned it, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. And it's something that I
Can you spell that,
think
kefir?
Oh, yeah. It's Kefir. And it's everywhere now. You'll find it by the yogurts. It's usually in a large bottle. And I have like half a cup every morning, and it just nourishes my gut. Like, I know it's so good for my body. I'm getting those probiotics in because I'm not a huge yogurt eater, but the kefir, I can throw it into a smoothie. I can have it half a cup by itself.
What does it look like? Does it look like
it looks like a yogurt, but thinner, almost like a drinkable yogurt.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
And it usually comes in like a big bottle. But you'll see it, and it's everywhere now. And it has so many sources of really bioavailable probiotics, which is great. So those are two ones that most of us know. Now, what if you don't eat dairy, right? What if you don't have milk products? Definitely things like kimchi, right? So that's something that has quite a bit of probiotics. Kombucha, right? So that's a tea that, like a fermented tea drink that you'll see everywhere now. That has a ton of probiotics, and those things are both vegan. And even miso, like miso soup, like the base of miso soup has a ton of probiotics as well. So different cultures, sauerkraut has probiotics. Like, a lot of different cultures incorporate these probiotic-rich foods in, like, their just native cuisine. So those are kind of, I would say, the most popular ones that people eat and know of.
So I've noticed that in your discussion about healthy food, you mentioned mostly fruits and vegetables. And you have not mentioned any kind of fast food or meats.
Nope.
Can you tell me why is that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple reasons. Fast food in general is just loaded with excess saturated fat and excess salt, right? And both of those things are going to increase your risk if they're consumed in excess of different chronic diseases, and they can really bog your immune system down. Not to mention tons of sugar in fast food, like McFlurries and all these different, crazy drinks and Shamrock shakes and all this stuff, right? Is loaded with sugar. And we know that too much sugar or too much salt, that can affect your immune system in a bad way. And in terms of red meat, I do eat red meat maybe 2-3 times a year. I don't eat it very often. But I am more of a proponent of going more plant-based because red meat, although it does have a ton of vitamins and minerals, it can be inflammatory. It can be super fatty, right? And something like that, if you're having a lot of red meat every single day, that can also increase your risk of developing certain cancers and chronic disease. So I think there's a time and a place for everything, and definitely red meat in moderation has its benefits. But when consumed on a regular basis, it's something that you have to really be careful with, and something that you have to look out for.
So tell me, I know we talked about food and fluids and consumption of and boosting our immune system. Tell me about things like sleep, adequate sleep. Tell me about our emotions and how that plays a part of our immune system and the health of it.
Absolutely. So, stress in general, right? Stress in general is going to increase your cortisol levels, and that can bog down your immune system. And, obviously it can be difficult to manage stress, but a great way to manage stress is making sure that you're getting proper sleep and that you're taking time for yourself. And, especially when you are depriving your body of sleep, that's your body's time to recover and recuperate from your crazy hectic day, right? And that's the time that our body rebuilds and repairs. If you're not giving your body enough time for that, studies show that it can really affect the immune system, and it can even affect appetite, right? Like, not getting enough sleep can really walk your body out and make you think that you're hungry when really you're just tired, right? So that's so important. And I think exercising, right, keeping your body strong, sticking to a consistent exercise routine is critical. And washing your hands. Wash your hands.
Oh, yes.
The most important thing I think anyone can do.
Yeah.
And I remember in school doing studies with the blue light and looking at, the bacteria on our phones and on our hands and the million things that we're touching every day. Wash your hands is probably the number one thing you can do to really avoid getting sick or spreading any type of cold or virus.
So you talked about aging, the aging process and boosting your immune system. As we get older, we understand that things change. Our digestive ability to digest foods change. So would you recommend the same diet for an older adult that you would someone who may be a teenager or even a child?
Everyone's different. And definitely, as you age, your immune system, especially after I think it's 65, your immune system really starts to decline, and like food safety becomes very, very important, right? Like being careful with foodborne illness and things like that. So of course, definitely recommendations as you age in terms of immunity can be different, but even for children, sometimes these schools are just a feeding frenzy for bacteria. So a healthy diet is really important at any stage of life, and really making sure that, you're incorporating more fresh produce, I think, is a universal, fantastic recommendation for everyone to follow. But definitely, your body is individualized, and foods that work for you might not work for your neighbor or someone else, right? So I think really meeting with a registered dietitian can help tailor those recommendations to you and what works for your body. And if you have food intolerances or if you have food sensitivities, things like that.
So if one of our friends wanted to get in contact with you, you are a registered dietitian, is there a way that we can contact you, email, phone number?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
So my email, if you have any questions, is my full name. So it's Stefani, Stefani, Sassos, Sassos @gmail.com. And I'm always receptive to anyone reaching out. And of course, if you ever have any questions, I do an Ask Steph column in the Good Housekeeping magazine. So we're always looking for questions for that from the everyday reader and consumer. And, what do you want to hear about? What do you want to read about? What do you want to learn more about in terms of nutrition and health?
When we pick up the Good Housekeeping magazine, we can know that all of that good information about nutrition is coming from you.
It's coming from me, and I have to tell you, our team here is just fantastic, and we have fact checkers here. All the information in the magazine and online is just really goes through so many levels, and to make sure that the quality product is credible, is evidence-based, is fantastic. And Good Housekeeping has such a plethora of information, not just nutrition. It has cleaning, it has home, it has cooking. The recipes in each issue are all triple tested, right? Which on different stoves and ranges to make sure that they're going to do fantastic in your kitchen when you make them yourself. So the magazine is honestly just a plethora of knowledge, and the nutrition information is really awesome, and it's coming from me and my team.
So just to touch on this, we understand that there is an upsurge of more and more viruses in our community. Would you say get immunizations, are you one that advocates for immunizations, or would you say that our diet is enough to protect us from the flu?
Yeah. Well, see, so you come from a nursing world, right? And I came from a hospital world. So I do believe in immunizations. I have seen them work, and I've also attended so many different discussions with physicians and panels where I've learned that a lot of times these immunizations, they're not just for preventing the disease, they're also helping to prevent mortality of the disease, so dying from the disease, right? So even if you do get the disease, reducing the risk of dying from whatever it is. So I do believe in immunizations, but I also believe in a healthy diet. And you know what? It's very individualized. You have to decide what's best for you and your family. But at the end of the day, a healthy diet, like exercise, staying active, proper hydration, that is the fundamental keys to keeping your immune system in tip-top shape.
So thank you so much for such a large amount of information, but relevant. Thank you for being here, Stefani Sassos, registered dietitian for the Good Housekeeping Institute at Hearst in New York City. This is Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard from the nursing department here at Nassau Community College. And we want to thank you for listening to this week's edition of Your Family's Health.
We'd like to get your feedback on your family's health. Send your comments by emailing them to whpc@ncc.edu. Podcasts of today's show are available on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This program was produced at the studios of Nassau Community College in cooperation with the Nursing Department. Join us next week for another edition of Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.